It's episode 637 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, I'm joined by Grant Schiller to talk about the Rangers' second day of draft picks, why Brock Porter drafting him in the fourth round makes the Kumar Rocker signing look all that much better. All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's episode 637 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, I am joined by Grant Schiller, the OG Shill, the baseball prospectus writer. I think we've announced that title since you have been on the show. It's been a hot minute. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been, like a month? So in that time, I've gone to North Dakota, which I'm sure is on everybody's bucket list to see the barren, flat, plain fields of North Dakota.
Yes.
I've gotten engaged. So Val, if you're listening to this, love you.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. And yeah, everything's been going good. How about with you?
Wait,
I guess they hear you every day. So
wait, did you tell me this before? Or is this you dropping news?
Oh, this is me dropping news.
Are you freaking kidding me? You wait till I hit record on a live podcast and I have to be all wow. That was not nearly as excited a reaction. Holy freaking crap. Congratulations, Grant. Wow. Did you do this in North Dakota? I'm assuming.
No. Oh,
okay.
no.
You didn't go. Oh, so you went there to go scout
I had
prospects.
a friend's wedding up there.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. Yeah, no, my life has been less exciting. I've not gotten engaged. I went to Atlanta and saw the College Football Hall of Fame and did the little drill where they throw you a pass and you like lay out for it. And I landed the one part. I did not because the ball was terrible. But I full on dove out for it and landed on the part of the pad where there was no pad. And I also shanked the field goal right beforehand. So like really showed off my athletic prowess this weekend. But you know who's actually got some athletic prowess? Kumar Rocker. If he was catching that ball, he would probably catch that ball. He's 6'5". He's a lot taller than I am. Longer wingspan. Well, I don't know. He's a pitcher, and they're not necessarily the best fielders at catching things. But you know, I don't know. Grant, I know you were in the same vein as me when they announced the pick. You thought, okay, why?
Yeah.
This is why. But after seeing the first couple of picks after this, they had a fourth-round pick. In case you forgot, they didn't have a second or third-round pick because those picks were Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Pretty good draft picks. I think they might make the major leagues. But anyway, this fourth-round pick that they got, I was being talked off the ledge by Jeff Ellis, host of Locked On Guardians, who has been covering the draft for eons, I think, at this point. But he was telling me about this fourth-round pick the Rangers got, a right-handed pitcher, Brock Porter, out of high school. He was named the 2022 Gatorade National Player of the Year at St. Mary's Prep in Orchard Lake, Michigan, after going 9-0. Well, I don't even need to give you the other stats. It's just 9-0. No. He had 3 no-hitters, a 0.41 ERA, 115 strikeouts in 58 innings. That is literally one shy of 2 strikeouts per inning. Grant, I need your expert opinions. Is that good?
No.
Okay. So it seems like I don't. Do you know where his commitment was to? Where he was going to go? Clemson?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Screw Clemson. They don't deserve this.
Agreed.
Man. Also, I would have just assumed that it's Vanderbilt. You put up those kind of numbers, you just go to Vanderbilt. That's like what happens. But apparently they're going to money whip this guy into actually signing with them. And, you know, I talked about it yesterday that like there are kind of 2 schools of thought of like this is hopefully the last top 5 pick the Rangers have for the next 5 years or so. With how they went into the break, I don't necessarily know if they're not going to have one more. But there's 2 schools of thought of like, okay, you can't afford to get cute with the bonuses and lowball a guy so that you can maybe sign your 4th-round pick or whatever, a guy like this, and try and lure him out of college. But also, this is your last chance to like try and do that because you're not going to have as big a bonus pool money in the future. So where do you kind of land in those 2 camps? Are you team go get your one guy at the very top, or take 2 bites of the apple because it's really hard to develop one guy.
I'm going to give you the boring answer and say it depends. It depends
Boo.
on if there's a guy at the top that you love and you're all in on. If you're not, then it makes sense to do it this way. If there is, if you look at Elijah Green or Temarr Johnson and say, we think that guy's going to be a superstar, you don't pass on him. So it depends.
So what part of them were they not seeing? Were they not seeing the 7th grade future hit tool on Temarr Johnson? Or were they not seeing the crazy athleticism of Elijah Green? Because I saw both those things, and I liked them both very much. I would have been happy, very happy with either one, honestly.
So I guess you look at them, and the 4 other options really were what? Temarr Johnson, Elijah Green, Brooks Lee, Kevin Parada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Temarr Johnson is my favorite of the 4. I'm pretty in on him. But you can look at him and you can say he's short. I don't really buy that.
5'10" is above average, okay? Anyone 5'9" and above is just tall.
So he's short for an athlete, tall for a regular person, obviously.
Thank you.
Obviously. And he's the reports that he's kind of tapped out physically. He's already pretty jacked. So there's probably not going to be a ton more power that comes. And he's limited to second base defensively. However, I just think he's so good at the unteachable things. The teachable things he can get better at. I love the hit tool. I love the swing. I'm all in on him. I would have loved if they got him, but they didn't. Green, I can definitely see where there's issues. That much swing and miss that early, it's pretty risky to me.
Well, how much swing and miss was it? Because I saw different things. I saw one that he had like a 20% K rate against elite talent in the guys that he's
really
playing.
High for that level, though.
Is it really? Okay, because I don't have context for that. I was like, well, if he's got a 20% swing and miss rate, but it felt overblown because of how high his athletic ceiling is, and it did feel like kind of a regression to the. I'm trying to think of any of those other prospects, the ones that didn't work besides Lewis Brinson was the model of Georgia high schooler, crazy tools, doesn't know how to hit a baseball, but if he does, he's going to be really stinking good.
Right.
And none of them worked out, and Lewis Brinson is the closest to that working out.
Yeah,
but he's better than that, though, right?
He is better than them. He is, and he probably is going to be a good player. I would just not bet on him reaching the crazy potential everyone talks about, because if you struggle with premier breaking stuff and fastballs in the zone now, that's probably going to be something that's going to carry with you forever. Not necessarily, but in most cases, and I don't know the swing and the personality enough to say whether he's someone who's going to break out of that mold. If you look at Brooks Lee, he would fit what they've done recently, getting college hitters.
I was not crazy about that. I would have been.
Yeah.
I wasn't really crazy about either of the college guys, any of the 3 top college guys that were there in Brooks Lee, Parada, or Barry. Because Parada, it seems might not end up being a catcher, and it's
right.
At
exactly.
that point, that's cool that his offense was crazy good and got way better each year, but that's half the profile is
right.
catching, doing that.
Yep. Yeah, both of them are probably going to move off their premium defensive positions, and so I would not have taken them at 3. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm. But what about Chase Young?
No.
Hey, second base is a premium defensive position. No, if you're gonna go for, apparently the strategy was go reunite one of your most recent first round picks with someone who they love and appreciate very much. Why not go get a brother? And if Chase Young played shortstop, he would have been the first pick in this draft, but he does not, and he will not. Well, even if they shoved him at shortstop and tried to shoehorn him in like his brother, I still don't think he would have been number 1 overall. But I don't know. It feels like such a weird and wacky risk. Coming up, we're gonna get into a little bit of the profile, a little bit of the. We're getting into the good parts. All right, we're gonna get into a positive appreciation of Kumar Rocker because he could end up being a very darn good pitcher after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or celebrating a milestone moment, you can find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. If you're like Grant and wanted to pop your engagement question, you want to be like Grant, want to be a fiance like Grant, and then spring that on your friend's podcast, completely surprising him, you can go to BlueNile.com. They've got all kinds of different rings, all kinds of online tools that, help you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft your perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind. If you're looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every single budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And right now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your favorite piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. And now, back to my talk with Grant Schiller. So, we're talking about Kumar Rocker, the future Cy Young perfect game haver every single time out. That is a totally likely scenario. No. But there was a reason why Kumar Rocker had a higher ceiling than Jack Leiter, a Jack Leiter who, ignore all the current struggles, his stuff is still premium. He's still almost certainly going to be a major league starting pitcher for several years to come. Yeah, and a good one. But, what was the difference between him and Leiter, and why was his ceiling higher? Why did people think that he could be better than Jack Leiter with as great a stuff as Jack Leiter already had?
I think there's more of a history of throwing strikes there. I mean, if you look, I'm just gonna try and pull up the numbers now, but if you look at the college stats,
I know his walks per nine was much better. His freshman was sub 2,
right, and senior was 2.8.
Yeah, and Leiter even had those walk issues in college.
Right, and he's had it going back to high school. And I mean, off topic, I think Leiter will get there with it. He's athletic enough to, and he repeats well enough to. But Rocker just has a history of throwing more strikes. So they both have premium stuff. I think that would be the main difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also he's 6'5", and Leiter, who is very tall for a normal human at what, 6'6'1". I think that's how tall he is.
Yeah, 6 foot, 6 even.
Is still solid, but I don't know. For me, I think the part that bothered me the most is it felt like, I know they said it wasn't a reaction to some of the top guys struggling a little bit, and I'm not saying that's the entire reason, but it didn't feel like it wasn't a factor at all with Cole Wynn's struggles and a little bit of Leiter's struggles. Not that I think that they're worried really at all about Leiter's struggles, because no one should be just yet. But still, do you think that that's it's like a drafting almost for need, which is a cardinal sin in a Major League Baseball draft?
Yeah, I think it is and it isn't. Another boring answer. But yes, I mean, I think the fact that he is the closest to Major League ready of anybody in the draft played a factor into it, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't think you draft in baseball based on positional need, based on timeline. You draft the best player available.
Yeah.
Drafting the big name prospect who is closest to the big leagues struck me as an indicator. I mean, that is something that quite often front offices who are kind of on the hot seat do. If they know that 2023, 2024, if it doesn't work out, then they need to push all their chips in for that, because they'd be gone. Now the pick today and what they use the money for, it doesn't necessarily indicate that so much. But the Rocker pick on its own in a vacuum kind of had me thinking that way, because...
Well, I mean, they'd done it for, 3 straight drafts? I mean, it was, I guess 2020 was, what's his face? Foscue, yeah, who... It was literally 3 in a row, 3 college guys from the SEC, or technically SEC country, because Texas is now SEC country, in Josh Young. But, these polished guys that are pretty close. And it felt especially foolish last year before the spending spree. This year, because it didn't feel like it was necessarily related, because it was it's Jack Leiter, this is their guy, they wanted him, whatever. But now kind of seeing with what the plan was and that it actually came together, it's okay, maybe that factored into the plan. But I don't know. Yeah. It's just kind of confusing. But what have you heard about this high school pitcher that they signed? How excited are you, and how much do you think, all right, this makes me feel much better about the Rocker pick than you did initially?
So I'll caveat it with righty prep arms tend to be high-risk guys, even the polished ones. I mean, we've seen Wynn come in, and he's a very good prospect, but he has not been as polished as expected. He struggled to find the strike zone. So I'll caveat with that, but I'm pretty excited. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's obviously not somebody I had heard about before. I mean, the Rangers picked at 3 and then 109. So for all intents and purposes for this draft, like, Rangers people just had to evaluate the top, like, 5 or 6 prospects. Mm-hmm. But he's number 11 on MLB. He's number 9 on Prospects Live. And I mean, what you read is it's a premium fastball, mid-90s, touching 100 with arm side run and life. Ooh. It's a plus changeup, and then the slider's been looking better this spring. He's a big kid. He's well thought of. It's pretty exciting. So for me, yesterday I was pretty frustrated by the Rocker pick. I really wanted Temarr Johnson. I wasn't really expecting him, but I really wanted somebody less risky there. But you come away with picks 3 and 109 with, 2 of the top 25 players. It's pretty strong.
It's kind of wild to me that he is the highest rated prep arm, and not the guy who
not Lesko?
Who San Diego took. For those who don't know, Lesko was a guy out of Buford, Georgia, who I believe had Tommy John surgery.
Yes.
Was thought of as maybe the top guy in this pick, in this draft, in terms of prep arms. It was obviously him and Brock Porter. Brock Porter was a guy people didn't think was going to be drafted high enough for him to forgo his commitment to Clemson of all places, which certainly a choice, but he's getting out of Michigan, so can't blame him there for coming down to the South. But again, if they pull this off, which is a big
that's the thing, they have to sign him.
They have to sign first off. You have to sign him, and then you have to have him kind of work out. And same thing with Rock. You need one of those two to work out in a big way. They don't have to reach their 99th percentile or whatever, but they probably got to reach at least 75th percentile. Otherwise, Levi said it in his article pretty well. This is a move that can make them look like geniuses, or could put them on the chopping block, which shows you how desperate this move is. Coming up, we're going to get into a little bit of looking at is this front office on the hot seat, and if so, should they be? But first, let's word from our sponsors. For the people who... This episode is also brought to you by Built Bar. From the people who basically invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably had the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given you coconut brownie chunk, the Built Bar's puff treatment. They also have some new flavors coming down the line, some cookie dough flavors. They just sent us a box. It's absolutely delicious. They've got all kinds of new flavors at all times. Go to built.com. Check out the amazing flavors. Every single one of them is healthy. Every single one of them is good for you. They are seriously so good. I started off my morning with one of those bad boys today, and immediately made my day better. And even though I was treating myself in the morning to something with cookie dough flavors in it, I knew that it was healthy because it's given to you by Built Bar. Their bars are low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and high in fiber. They're all delicious. Plus, they're made with collagen protein, which is healthier for you, and your body absorbs it more naturally. They've also got the delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to Built.com right now and order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now, or whatever flavor your heart desires. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And now, back to my talk with Grant Schiller. So, we talked about earlier in this episode that John Daniels and company might be on the hot seat because this is a kind of pick that kind of looks like that. Initially, we saw with some of these secondary picks, with the Brock Porter pick specifically, that this is not necessarily one of those picks that a front office makes when they think, okay, well, we gotta, maybe sacrifice the future to try and win now because we might not be here to reap the benefits. But that's what kind of surprised me the most about this draft, because John Daniels has never been a panicky guy. He's always been a long-term visionary. He's always, as a general rule, not to say he hasn't had screw-ups. Every GM, every front office does. But for the most part, there haven't been that many, knee-jerk reaction kind of moves that kind of sacrifice the long-term overall goal. But this kind of felt like one. Is that Is that your feeling? And did that surprise you at all, if it was what you felt like?
It was prior to the Brock Porter pick. Because it seemed like today it was pretty clear based on how everybody was wording their expectations and hinting at it that Brock Porter was going to be the guy. But initially, you don't necessarily expect somebody of that caliber to drop all the way down to 109 and be signable. So granted, they both sign. It's not at this point. Now, I think they have definitely promised ownership that next year is the year to compete. If they don't, there might be changes. I would hope not, based on the adjustments they've made. I think into the 2010s, this front office was well behind the times. Developmentally, drafting, putting together a big league roster. I mean, just kind of across the board, they're behind the times. But I'll give JD a lot of credit in that he kind of accepted that and noted it and adjusted. And since then, they've drafted much better. They've developed better. I know the arms have taken steps back this year. It maybe hasn't been the best year on the farm. But development on the whole has improved. The culture through the organization, people talk really well about. There's still issues to fix, but I think the keys to rebuilding have been turned around and are now strengths in which I'd like to see them have more time to see it through.
Yeah,
personally.
and one of the things that's really impressed me with them, like we talked about before we hit record, is like this team, like in 2020 especially, felt like the real turning point. Like 2019 was a good draft. I mean, they got Josh Young.
2019. Can I roll through this real quick?
Yes, please do.
So Josh Young with the 8th overall pick, Davis Wenzel, probably going to be a big leaguer. Profiles out a little bit, but he was at 41. Ryan Garcia at 50. He's now back. I mean, injury issues, you can't really help that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look down the draft. Round 5, Kellen Strom is interesting. Round 6, Cody Bradford. Round 9, Zach Kent. Round 18, Mark Church. Round 19, Blaine Krim. Round 30, Anthony Hoopy. I mean, there's interesting guys going pretty far down here. And they just did. I mean, the scouting has been really strong 2019 and then 2020, like you mentioned.
2020 was an absolute, feels like an absolute coup at this point.
Oh, yeah. All 5.
Yeah, all 5 of them seem like future big leaguers, which is absolutely nuts, especially given where, like, the Evan Carter one, we could be looking at as, like, one of the great draft steals the Rangers have, like, ever done, because that is looking better and better with each passing day. And I know he was just outside of the BP top 50 midseason prospects, and I really wrestled with wanting to, like, credit him and not, like, drop Cole Winn, because I had him at 6, and I really thought about putting him at 5. I don't think I would have put him past Owen White, because I'm really high on Owen White, which, probably says more about me, even though I haven't seen him and don't really know anybody who has gotten a good first-hand view. But I want to believe, man. I want to believe in the Owen White. And if I can do that, then I can definitely believe in Kumar Rocker. But, like, this team was straight flexing on people after the 2020 draft, and we kind of clowned them for it, and then we looked like absolute clowns for it. And then last year's draft is already looking really good in some of the later rounds. Like, the Larson Kindrich is already like, what the heck is that? Where did he come from? Like, all these different random names when I was doing my top 30 and looking at new guys, I was like, wow, how is that guy already doing things? And he was drafted, like, last year. And so I think with those drafts in a row, like, it's not the strategy I wanted, not what I would have preferred, but I can see that they are doing some things, and the fact that they've been able to change, like, this recent draft history with the same guy in charge. Like, Kip Faggott's a great guy by all accounts, like, really, like, one of the most, like, well-respected, well-liked figures in the organization, but, like, he should have borne a lot of the brunt of, like, these draft picks are not working out. And credit to him as well as JD and the rest of this organization, like, literally top to bottom, because it's not just one guy that it takes, but, like, him as well, completely, like, getting themselves up to speed and nailing the last 3 drafts and maybe this one. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't think there are many guys who get to the levels of front offices like JD and Fag and whoever else has been involved who are humble enough to change that much. Most MLB front office execs tend to be who get to that level tend to be more set in their ways and more assured of themselves, almost to the point of arrogance, in how they do things as the right way. And JD's never been that guy, and that's why he's been able to adjust so much. He's smart, and he's willing to admit and accept when he has fallen behind and made mistakes.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the greatest things you can be as, well, as any person in general, but especially in like Major League Baseball where things are changing so fast. Like you could be ahead of the times now, and then if you coast or let that slide, then you will be behind in a nanosecond.
Yes.
But yeah, that's been really encouraging. And the state of this farm, looking at my top 30, just like in general, even though it's been kind of a frustrating couple of weeks, I am very glad to say that I did not watch any of the Rangers getting swept by the Mariners. I will get caught up during the break. Because I was not going to let that ruin my vacation. I waited till Sunday night with the Rocker pick to let it ruin my vacation just a little bit. But, I'm excited about Rocker. Obviously, like, I'm going to be rooting for the kid. Like, I don't want him to fail just so that I look smart for dogging the pick. Like, obviously, I want the Rangers prospects to do well because if they do well, then the Rangers do well, and I don't have to cover a bad team. I've done that for long enough. I like it when they do well. But yeah, this is, I don't know. I'm just kind of encouraged. And I know you haven't watched that much of the Big League Club, but I do want to just very quickly get your kind of thoughts on like how this year is going versus like just real quick treetops kind of view of like how this year is going versus what you thought. Because they're a little worse record than I thought, but then you kind of zoom out big picture and see, okay, it seems like they're still pretty much on track.
Yeah, I don't have any negatives about this season as far as the overall look.
Wow, you don't want to fire Chris Woodward? Are you even a real Rangers fan?
Well, I don't know that I'm super high on Chris Woodward, but like the one-run losses, that's variance. That happens. 2015, it's not. I mean, we reap the benefits of this, right? And we do a lot of little things wrong, and that plays into it, but not to the extent that they've been hit with. Their Pythagorean is 45 and 45. That's better than anybody expected coming into the year, or at least reasonably expected. So, on the micro level, there's issues. I mean, I still want to see Adolis get back on track so we can put it together for a full season. I think he's probably proven that he is a starting caliber outfielder. But
I'd say even above average, like at this point.
Yeah, he definitely might be.
I mean, he had like.
I really want to see him get out of this farm.
That's true. I do want to see that too because there is a decent sized part of me that's a little worried that this is going to continue for the second half. But he did have like a month and a half, almost 2 months really, of like May and June where he was like, June especially, where he just like literally lit the world on fire. Yeah. But like he did that last year too, so it's like, all right, just sustain, don't completely fall off. And there is one more big league guy I want to get your thoughts on because he has been like the lone bright spot of the last 3 weeks, and I think you know who I'm talking about. Brockberg. No, Leody Taveras.
Oh, I was thinking Corey Seager.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, but like, he's making $30 million. He's going toe-to-toe kind of with Julio Rodriguez in a home run derby if his dad had some urgency throwing pitches. But like, Leody is already a .9 WAR player in, let's see, 30 games. Like, and he's got a 920 OPS. Like, I'm so excited for this kid because he's only 23 years old. Everyone forgets. I forget too because we've been talking about him for so long. But like, this is it. This is the Leody that we hoped on. This is the Leody we dreamed on. How much of this do you think is sustainable? How excited are you for this kid and what he's doing right now?
I'm excited. It's not all sustainable, which is fine. It doesn't have to be. I mean, just looking at it from the top level, he's hitting. What is he hitting?
341.
341. And
slugging with 550.
Yeah, and those numbers, the expected batting average is 259. Expected slugging is 381. It's significantly lower, but it's also good enough to let his defense play and provide value. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're going to he's a really good defensive center fielder, and he should be a really good base runner. So even if the expected numbers are what he settles down at, that's fine. Like, I'd like him to walk more, but he's striking out less. He's hitting the ball harder, more consistently. If he can be 10% below league average with the bat, he's going to be so super valuable. And so, no, he's not going to be 60% above league average. He's not going to have a 426 BABIP.
Wow.
But some of the stuff he's doing is
Hater.
legitimate. And it might be enough to make the defense and base running play, which is really all he needs.
Yeah, and like at the even more like treetops level, like just after how horrendous his time at the big leagues was last year, like he needed this in the worst way. Even if he goes into like a little bit of a crater slump, like he needed this prolonged stretch, not just like the 20 or 30 games in 2020. I don't even know if it was 30. I don't think it was. But like he needed this prolonged stretch of 30 games where he shows, I am a freaking big leaguer. Like I am not an offensive black hole. You know how great my defense is. And like you said, he only needs to be like, if he is even league average, then like he's
really good.
Like really dang good. And that is very, very exciting. And, you know, I want to get into Brock Burke with you in a later episode. We don't really have time to get into that today because I have some thoughts about maybe bringing Brock Burke in the starting rotation that I might need you to talk me out of later on. But since we are near the end of our show, we are at the time, if you are new to this, because it's been a hot minute since Grant's been on here, we are doing our Random Ranger, finding the most random Ranger we can find, going into detail about how great they were for the slightest amount of time. And, you know, I want to go first because I think I have found the most random Ranger that has actually played at some point. It's not just been on the roster. You did find one a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, that was on the roster for literally a day and never played, which was a great pull.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who played for the Rangers in 2009. He was 23 years old. He played in one game, one plate appearance, and had one strikeout.
Can you give me a position?
I will give you a position. He was an outfielder. Bats right, throws right. Former first-round pick out of Austin, Texas by the Phillies, 21st overall in the 2004 draft, out of John B. Connolly High School in Austin. Made his debut with Philly, played 6 games, had 6 plate appearances, struck out 4 times, but somehow scored 2 runs because that's the kind of guy he is. For his major league career, this is the most amazing stat I have found on him. 40 games, 42 plate appearances in his entire major league career.
Is it Greg Golson?
I hate you so much.
Is it?
It is Greg Golson.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is as random a Ranger as you can freaking find. Really, I felt like I can't believe that you got that from me. I'm so mad at you.
Look, he could run.
I'm sure he could. I will take your word for it because I have no idea. Literally just looking for the most random guy. Yes, he played with the Yankees for 2 years, 24 games in 2010 and 9 in 2011. So, never had a career home run, but wow. That I cannot believe that you did that to me.
Just think of how smart I could be if I would expunge this information that has me know a Ranger who had 1 plate appearance in 2009.
That's really impressive. All right, who is your random Ranger? I'm not even gonna try and guess him, just out of respect.
Well, you might be able to guess him. Actually, it's not quite as random. This is like a legitimate, like, very good MLB pitcher for a long time down in Houston. Who in his very last year in the league,
Nolan Ryan
came into a playoff Rangers team in 2015. Yeah, Nolan Ryan. Playoff Rangers team in 2015 that was really just struggling in the rotation and kept things decent. Like he slowed things down. He was actually like very, very valuable. He played in Houston for 8 years, then went to Pittsburgh. 2015 Rangers, 6-4 with a 4.90 ERA, 4.33 FIP, and 86 innings.
Is this?
You have a guess?
Is it Wandy Rodriguez?
It is Wandy Rodriguez.
Oh yeah. That's my guy.
He was very valuable to that team.
He really was.
It's very easy to forget that he was a Ranger.
I would never forget him.
It's also a little surprising that he did legitimately well and never got on with another team.
I mean, he was like 14% below league average, but like, yeah, he was really important to that team. Like, looking at that rotation, I mean, it's funny you see at the bottom Cole Hamels, Martin Perez. For the top, the greats, Colby Lewis, Giovanni Gallardo, Nick Martinez. Nothing but the best on the 2015
Yep.
Rangers. That was just the most. I think that might be one of my like low key favorite Rangers teams because of how absolutely random and how kind of fluky it was. Even though we all knew it was fluky at the time, like it did not matter.
It just kept happening.
Yeah, it just kept happening. So fluke me once, shame on you. Fluke me twice, the shame is on you now. Fluke me 3 times, won't get fluked again. Oh gosh, what a great poll! Wandy Rodriguez and Greg Golson, a name I'd literally not heard until Baseball Reference about 15 minutes ago.
Golson's one of the best ones we've had.
I feel really good about that one. I will never forgive you for guessing that one. But yeah, great talking with you. Great kind of walking us through the Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter funness. I don't know, walking ourselves off the ledge and seeing that there was a plan, and kind of reminding ourselves that hey, they are technically a lot smarter than us. I mean, they're not gonna pull the Greg Golson. I guarantee you, JD is not gonna pull Greg Golson if I started describing him as fast as you did. They might have pulled Wandy Rodriguez before I did, but you know what? That's fine. I can live with that. I did get Wandy Rodriguez. But yeah, very exciting time for the Rangers. Lots of stuff to talk about this week. While there is, I don't know if I'm going to talk about. We literally talked about the home run derby for the whole 15 seconds. That it was worth it. He did good. Julio Rodriguez did really good. I turned it off about halfway through so I could record this podcast, and somehow Albert Pujols at age 57 made it to the second round. Maybe as a sign of deference, they're all going to kind of like fake it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It does no good talking about it at this point. Grant, where can the fine folks listening to Locked On Rangers find you and your wonderful work? And wish you a happy engagement that you sprung on me.
They can find me on Twitter at OGShill. That's SH. Wow, I can't spell my own name. That would be SCHILL.
We've all been there, man. I mean, Bryce Harper does it every day. He misspells his own name, so it happens. It happens to the best of us, and it also happens to Bryce Harper. And also, they can find your work at Baseball Perspectives. If you haven't heard of that, it's a very good website. You can subscribe to them, pay them money, because they have very, very great services and some very smart people. And also Grant there.
Also me. Yeah, Rangers related. I just had a piece on Matt Watley go up today.
Heck yes.
So, not really a big league prospect, but super important to the organization.
Yeah, definitely a future coach, if I've ever seen one, of the Wheeler Rodriguez vein. And you know what? Seems like he's doing pretty well so far this year, which is encouraging and fun. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully it won't be like a month until the next time I have you on. I'll be on later this week with a couple more draft-focused experts. Not that Grant is not draft-focused, but, he's got his hands in everything. He's knowing who Greg Golson is. You can't expect him to know literally everything. But thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.